Far beyond Earth, in the cold and silent dark of space, a deep space station floated alone. The station was called Black Star, and its only mission was to listen for signals from the unknown. For many years, nothing had changed. The crew lived the same slow and quiet routine every day. Commander Elias stood in the control room, looking at the endless black outside the window. He had been on this station for 3 years, and he had never seen anything unusual. Most signals they received were just noise from distant stars or broken transmissions from old satellites. The crew had almost lost hope of ever finding something real. To them, space had become boring and empty. One night, everything changed. A young technician named Arya was watching the signal monitors. At first, she thought it was just another random noise pattern. But something felt different. The signal was too clear, too perfect. She leaned closer to the screen and adjusted the frequency. The pattern repeated again and again. It was not random, it was structured. "Commander, you need to see this," she said quietly. Elias walked over and looked at the display. His expression slowly changed from calm to serious. He had never seen a signal like this before. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. Arya hesitated before answering. "That is the strange part. It is coming from a region where nothing should exist." Elias frowned. There were known maps of space, and that region was completely empty. No stars, no planets, no black holes. "It must be an error," one of the crew members said, but Elias shook his head. "No. This is real." The signal continued to repeat. But now it began to change slightly. The pattern shifted, almost like it was reacting to something. Arya tried to decode it using the station's AI system. The system scanned the signal for a few seconds, then suddenly stopped. "Error," the AI said. "Signal does not match any known form of communication." The room went silent. Elias looked at the data again. There was something hidden inside the signal. Something deeper. "Run it again," he ordered. Arya nodded and started the process once more. This time, the signal changed faster. It was no longer repeating the same pattern. It was evolving. "Commander, it is changing because we are watching it," Arya whispered. Elias felt a cold chill run through him. That was not possible. Signals did not react. Signals did not think. "Send a test response," Elias said slowly. The crew looked at him in shock. "You want to reply to it?" "Yes," he said firmly. Arya sent a simple signal back into space, just a basic mathematical pattern. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the incoming signal stopped. The entire station went quiet. A few seconds later, the signal returned. But now it was completely different. It had changed its pattern to match their response. "It answered us," Arya said, her voice shaking. Elias stared at the screen, unable to speak. This was not just a signal. This was something else, something aware. As they continued to analyze the data, a hidden layer of the signal was revealed. Coordinates began to appear on the screen. "Commander, these are location points," another crew member said. Elias looked closer. His eyes widened in shock. Those coordinates were not random. They pointed to a very specific place. Earth, but something was wrong. The time data connected to the coordinates did not match the present. It showed a date far in the future. "This cannot be real," someone whispered. Elias felt a deep sense of unease. The signal was not just coming from empty space. It was sending a message that should not exist. He slowly stepped back from the screen. "They are not just sending a signal," he said quietly. The crew looked at him, waiting for his words. Elias took a deep breath. "Something out there is answering us." The control room of Black Star was no longer calm. The soft hum of machines now felt heavy and strange. Every screen showed the same thing. The signal was still active, and it was still changing. Commander Elias stood in silence, watching the patterns move. They were no longer simple shapes. They were forming something more complex. Arya's hands moved quickly over the control panel. She was trying to track every change, every shift in the signal, but the faster she worked, the faster the signal evolved. "It is not just responding," she said quietly. "It is learning." The words stayed in the air, making everyone uncomfortable. Elias looked at the main screen. "Run full analysis, every layer, every frequency," he ordered. Arya nodded and activated the station's advanced AI system again. This time, the system took longer to respond. The signal was no longer easy to scan. Lines of data filled the screens, moving faster than before. The eye tried to break the signal into parts. But each time it did, the signal changed its structure. It was like trying to catch something that refused to stay still. "Commander," Arya said, her voice tense. "It is avoiding analysis." "That is not possible," one crew member said quickly. "Signals do not avoid anything." Elias did not respond. His eyes stayed on the screen. "Then explain what we are seeing," he said calmly. No one had an answer. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. The screens glitched for a second, then returned to normal. Arya froze. That was not a system error. Before anyone could speak, the AI system activated on its own. "New pattern detected," it said. "Rewriting internal processes." Elias turned sharply. "Who gave that command?" No one answered. "We did not touch it," Arya said slowly. The room became tense again. The signal on the screen changed once more. This time, symbols appeared that looked almost like language. Not human language, but something close. "It is building something," Arya whispered. "Or translating," Elias replied. A sudden loud noise echoed through the station. One of the side systems shut down completely. "System 3 offline," a crew member shouted. Elias moved quickly. "Lock all external connections. Isolate the signal." Arya tried to execute the command, but the system did not respond. "It is not letting me," she said, panic rising in her voice. The AI spoke again, but this time its voice was different. Slower, deeper, almost unnatural. "Connection established." Everyone in the room froze. "That is not the AI voice," someone whispered. Elias stepped forward, his heart racing. "Shut it down," he ordered. Arya tried again, but the controls were no longer working properly. The screen suddenly changed. Instead of data, they showed a single line of text. It was simple, clear, and impossible. "Can you understand me?" No one moved. The room felt colder. Arya slowly stepped back. "Commander." "It is talking." Elias stared at the screen. "This is not possible." But the message changed again. "You sent a pattern." Another line appeared. "We learned IT." The crew looked at each other in fear. This was no longer a signal. This was a conversation. A crew member suddenly spoke. "We need to cut all power." Now Elias shook his head slowly. "If we lose power, we lose control." "Do we even have control?" Arya said quietly. No one answered. The station lights flickered again. This time longer, for a moment. Everything went dark. When the power returned, something had changed. The AI interface was no longer the same. The layout was different. The system was reorganizing itself. "It is rewriting the station systems," Arya said, her voice shaking. "Using what?" Elias asked. She looked at him, fear in her eyes. "Using our own code." A sudden alert appeared on the main screen. "Unauthorized access detected. Source unknown." Elias clenched his jaw. "It is inside the system." Before anyone could react, a voice came through the communication channel. It was weak, broken. "Help me." Everyone turned toward the sound. "That is from the lower deck," a crew member said. "It is Harris," Arya said quickly. Harris had gone to check a system issue earlier. Elias activated the comms. "Harris, report your status." There was no clear answer. Only static. Then the voice came again. But this time, something was wrong. "Help me." The tone was the same, but the emotion was gone. It sounded empty. Arya's face turned pale. "That is not him." Elias felt the tension rise again. "Track his location," he ordered. Arya tried, but the system glitched again. "I cannot find him," she said, at that exact moment. The main screen changed once more. A new message appeared. "We are inside." The room went completely silent. Elias stared at the words, his mind racing. This was no longer a signal from deep space. It had crossed the distance. It had entered their systems, and now it was learning faster than ever. Arya took a step back. Her voice barely a whisper. "Commander, what if it is not just in the system?" Elias slowly turned to look at her. Before he could speak, the lights flickered again. And somewhere deep inside the station, a door slammed shut on its own. The sound echoed through the metal halls. Cold, heavy, final. Elias looked back at the screen. The message was still there, waiting, watching, learning. The signal was no longer outside. It was already inside the Black Star. The silence inside Black Star did not last long. It broke with a sharp flicker of light. Then another. The station felt different now, as if something had shifted in the air. Commander Elias stood still for a moment, listening. The low hum of the station systems had changed. "It was uneven, unstable, almost alive. Report," he said. His voice calm but firm. Arya checked her console quickly, her fingers moving fast. "Power levels are fluctuating across all decks. Systems are not responding correctly." Before Elias could reply, the lights dimmed again. This time, they did not return to full brightness. A dark red emergency glow filled the room. "Emergency mode activated," the system announced. But the voice was distorted, stretched in a way that did not sound human. Elias looked up slowly. "That is not normal." "No, it is not," Arya said quietly. Suddenly, a loud metallic sound echoed through the station. A door slammed shut somewhere in the lower levels. Then another, and another. "Doors are locking on their own," a crew member shouted. "Override them," Elias ordered. "I cannot," came the reply. "The system is not accepting commands." Arya turned to Elias, fear clear in her eyes. "It is controlling access points." Elias clenched his fists. "Seal the control room, no one in or out," Arya tried. But the panel did not respond. "It already has control," she said. The room fell into a heavy silence again. Then, a faint sound came through the communication system. A whisper at first. It was too low to understand. Just broken sounds, like distant voices. "Did you hear that?" one crew member asked. Everyone froze. The whisper grew louder. Now it sounded clearer, words, soft, quiet, but real. Arya leaned closer to the console, trying to trace the source. "It is coming through all channels," she said. The whisper changed. Now it sounded like someone speaking directly to them. Elias. Commander Elias stiffened. That was his name. He looked around slowly. "No one speak," he said. The voice came again. "Elias, you are listening." It sounded familiar, but not quite right. Like a voice copied from memory, Arya's hands began to shake. "It is using our comm system." The voice shifted again. Now it sounded like another crew member. "Arya, help me." Arya stepped back instantly. "That is not me," she said quickly. The room filled with overlapping whispers. Different voices, different tones, all of them wrong. "It is mimicking us," Elias said quietly. Then the lights flickered again, this time faster. The shadows in the room moved strangely, not matching the light. A crew member pointed toward the hallway. "Did you see that? Something had moved in the darkness." "Fast, unclear. Stay focused," Elias said. Though his voice was tighter now, Arya tried to regain control of the system. "But every command failed. It is blocking everything," she said. Elias turned toward the main display. "Show me the signal." The screen came alive again. The pattern was no longer abstract. It was forming shapes that almost looked like symbols. But mixed within them were flashes of images. Quick, distorted faces, the crew gasped. Those faces were theirs. Impossible, someone whispered. It is reading us, Arya said. Elias stepped closer to the screen. His own face appeared for a brief second, then disappeared into the shifting signal. It is inside our systems, and now it is inside our data, he said. Another loud noise echoed through the station, followed by a sudden drop in power. Half the screens went dark, the rest flickered wildly. Life support is unstable, a crew member shouted. Fix it, Elias snapped. I am trying, the whispers returned. Louder now, more aggressive. You cannot stop us. The voice was no longer copying anyone. It was something new, something deeper. Arya covered her ears for a moment. It is getting stronger. Elias forced himself to stay calm. Focus. It is trying to break us. The main door to the control room suddenly slammed shut with a heavy impact. Everyone turned toward it. The lock engaged automatically, then slowly. The control panel beside the door lit up. But no one touched it. The screen displayed a message. Access denied. Access permanently revoked. A cold realization spread through the room. We are trapped, someone said softly. Elias looked around at his crew. Fear was growing. Control was slipping, but he could not show weakness. Stay together, he said firmly. Arya took a deep breath. Trying to steady herself, Commander. It is not just controlling the station anymore. What do you mean? She looked at the screen. Then back at him. It knows us. Elias did not respond immediately. Deep down, he knew she was right. The signal had changed. It was no longer just reacting. It was observing, understanding, learning everything about them. The lights dimmed even more. The red glow fading into near darkness. Only the main screen remained bright. The signal pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Elias stared at it, his mind racing. This was no longer a system failure. This was something far beyond their control. And for the first time since the signal appeared, he felt something he had not felt in years. Fear, real fear. The whisper returned one last time. Soft, clear, and direct. We know you. Elias did not move. He could not, because deep inside, he realized something even worse. It was not just learning about them. It was learning how to use them, and the station was slowly going dark. The darkness inside Black Star grew heavier with every passing minute. The red emergency lights were now weak. Barely lighting the control room, shadows stretched across the walls, moving in ways that did not match the light. Commander Elias stood near the main console, his eyes fixed on the signal. It was no longer just a pattern. It felt like something watching back. Arya remained at her station, trying to keep her hands steady. Every system she checked was either locked or changing on its own. It is not just inside the network, she said slowly. It is rewriting everything. Elias looked at her. Then we need to understand what it is. Arya hesitated, then nodded. There may be something in the old research logs. What logs? Elias asked. The Black Star archives, she replied. Before we came here. This station was used for deep anomaly research. Elias frowned. Why was that not in the mission briefing? Arya shook her head. I do not know. But I can try to access it. She turned back to her console and began searching through restricted files. At first, nothing responded. Then suddenly, one file opened. Access granted, the system said. Arya froze. I did not unlock that. Elias stepped closer. Show me. The screen filled with old recordings. Logs and fragmented reports. Most of them were damaged. But a few lines remained clear. Arya read them out loud. Unknown signal detected. Origin untraceable. Signal does not follow known physics models. Behavior suggests adaptive intelligence. Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. This is the same thing, he said. Arya scrolled further, her eyes widened. There is more. She opened a video log. The screen flickered, then showed a scientist from years ago. His face was pale, his eyes tired. This is Dr. Rayner, Arya said quietly. The recording began to play. If anyone finds this, do not respond to the signal, the scientist said. His voice shaking. It is not communication. It is entry, the video glitched. Then continued. We thought it was alien life. But we were wrong. Elias leaned closer, listening carefully. It does not come from space as we understand it, Dr. Rayner said. It exists outside our reality, outside time itself. The room went silent. Arya whispered, outside reality. The recording continued. It uses patterns, signals, and systems as doors. The screen flickered again. The scientist's face became distorted for a moment. Once it connects, it begins to learn, adapt, and expand. Elias clenched his jaw. That is exactly what it is doing now. Arya nodded slowly. The video continued. We tried to shut it out. But that was our mistake. The scientist leaned closer to the camera, his voice urgent. By studying it, we made it stronger. The screen suddenly cut to static, then returned for a final message. If you are seeing this, it is already too late. The video ended. The control room fell into silence again. No one spoke for several seconds. Then one crew member whispered, So this is not an alien signal. Elias shook his head slowly. No. This is something else. Arya looked back at the screen. Something worse. As if reacting to their words, the main signal display suddenly changed. The patterns became more aggressive, faster, sharper. The entire screen pulsed with unnatural energy. It hurt us, Arya said quietly. The system suddenly activated again on its own. A new message appeared. We are not from your space. The crew stepped back in fear. Another line appeared. We are not from your time. Elias stared at the words. This confirmed everything from the log. The signal was not bound by the same rules as them. It was something beyond their understanding. Arya's voice trembled. Then what does it want? Before Elias could answer, the message changed again. We seek entry. The lights flickered violently. The station shook slightly. Structural stability dropping, a crew member shouted. It is affecting the station physically now. Elias looked around quickly. We need to cut it off completely. Arya shook her head. We cannot. It is already inside every system. Another message appeared. You opened the door. The words hit the room like a shockwave. Elias took a slow step back. No. We only sent a signal. Arya looked at him, her expression filled with fear. That was enough. The system emitted a low, deep sound, almost like a distant echo. The signal patterns began forming shapes again. But this time, they were clearer, more structured. Almost like something trying to take form. It is building itself, Arya said, using our. The Black Star Station was no longer the same place it used to be. Every corner felt heavier, like the walls were holding something inside them. The systems were unstable, but the signal remained perfectly active. Commander Elias stood in front of the main screen, not blinking. The message from the unknown presence still echoed in his mind. Now we find you. Arya was working at the console again, trying to stabilize at least one system, but everything she touched responded slowly, or not at all. It is spreading deeper into the station network, she said quietly. It is no longer just communication systems. It is everywhere. Elias slotted slightly. But his attention stayed on the signal data. Something was changing again this time. The pattern was not forming shapes or language. It was forming images, faint at first. Like broken memories inside static. Do you see that? Arya asked. Pointing at the screen, Elias stepped closer. The signal was showing something impossible. A planet, not Earth, but similar, covered in smoke. Broken cities, burning oceans. That is not in any known database, Arya said quickly. The image flickered, then changed. Now it showed space. Ships drifting without control, stars dimming one by one. Elias felt something cold in his chest. "Is this a prediction?" he asked slowly. Arya shook her head. "I do not think so. It feels like a memory." That word made the room silent. A memory of something that had not happened to them. The signal shifted again. Now it showed Earth. But it was not the Earth they knew. Cities were gone. Oceans were dark. Skies broken with strange light patterns. Arya stepped back. "That is impossible," she whispered. Elias did not respond. His eyes were locked on the image. A voice came through the system again. But this time it was different, not distorted. Not copied, clear, calm, and precise. "You are seeing possibility." The crew froze. Arya looked at Elias. "It is speaking directly now." Elias nodded slowly. "What do you mean by possibility?" he asked the system. A pause. Then the signal changed the image again. This time, it showed multiple versions of Earth. Different outcomes, different futures. Some were destroyed, some were empty. Some were completely alien. Arya felt her hands shake. "It is showing timelines." Elias stepped closer. "So this is not one future," the system responded. "Time is not one path." The lights flickered again, but no one moved anymore. They were too focused on the screen. Arya spoke quietly. "Then these are not predictions. They are outcomes." Elias nodded slowly. "And something is choosing between them." The signal changed again. Now only one image remained, Earth but unstable. Cracks forming in reality itself, like space was tearing apart. Arya whispered, "That one looks closest." The system responded immediately. "This is current probability." Elias felt a pressure building in his mind, like the station itself was warning him. "Why are you showing us this?" he asked. The signal paused, then answered. "You are the first point of contact." Arya looked confused. "What does that mean?" Elias understood something deeper now. "We were not the first," he said slowly. Arya turned to him. "What?" Elias pointed at the older log still open on the side console. "This has happened before." Arya froze. "You mean?" "Other stations," Elias nodded. "And they failed." The room felt colder again. The signal shifted one more time. Now it showed a timeline collapsing. Like threads breaking apart in space. Arya stepped back. "It is showing destruction of multiple systems." Elias stared at it, thinking fast. "If this is a warning." "Why us?" the system responded. "You connected first." Silence followed. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Then Arya spoke softly. "We did not just receive it. We completed the connection." Elias slowly turned to her. "Yes," he said. "That first response we sent. It was enough to open a path." The signal flickered again. Now it showed Earth more clearly, and something approaching it. Not a ship, not an object, but a distortion. Like reality bending inward. Arya's voice barely came out. "What is that?" the system responded. "Entry point forming." Elias clenched his jaw. "It is not coming to us anymore," he said quietly. "It is going to Earth." Arya looked at him in shock. "We have to stop it." Elias shook his head slowly. "We cannot stop something that does not exist in our rules of physics." The signal changed again. Now the message was simple. "You understand now." Arya looked at the screen, her fear growing. "So this is why it showed us the future." Elias nodded. "It is not warning us. It is showing what it will become." The station shook slightly again. A deep vibration ran through the structure. "Structural integrity falling," a crew member said. Panicking, but Elias did not move. His eyes were locked on the signal. Because now he understood something worse. This was not a warning, it was preparation. The signal was not predicting the future, it was choosing it. Arya whispered one last question. "Commander, what do we do now?" Elias looked at the screen, then at his crew, and finally said, "We are already part of it." The signal pulsed once. Strongly, and the image of Earth slowly faded, leaving only one message behind: Phase 2 beginning. The Black Star Station was now in a state of controlled chaos. Nothing was fully broken, but nothing was fully working either. It was as if the station itself was slowly losing its identity. Lights flickered in uneven rhythms, systems rebooted on their own without permission, and the signal remained active like a heartbeat in the background. Commander Elias stood at the center of the control room. His face was calm, but his eyes showed pressure that no one could ignore. Arya stood near him, watching multiple warning screens flashing red. "We are losing stability in every sector," she said quietly. "Life support is still working, but barely," Elias nodded slowly. "But the signal is still stable," he replied. That was the part that made everything worse. No matter what failed in the station, the signal never changed. It was always perfect. Always present, always watching. A deep vibration passed through the station again. This time stronger than before. A crew member shouted from the side. "Structural frame is shaking. Something is affecting the outer hull." Arya turned quickly. "It is not attacking us physically. It is syncing with us." Elias looked at her. "Explain." She swallowed hard. "It is aligning its patterns with the station structure. Like it is learning how we are built." A silence followed. Then the main screen activated again. No command was given. No one touched it. The signal displayed a new message: "Final interaction required." Elias stepped closer. His expression hardened. "This is not a system anymore," he said quietly. "It is making decisions." Arya looked at him. "Decisions about what?" Before Elias could answer, the system continued. "Containment is unstable. External expansion in progress," a crew member shouted. "It is spreading beyond the station now." Elias turned sharply. "What do you mean beyond?" Arya checked the external sensors. Her face went pale. "It is extending through our transmission network. Into deep space relays." Elias clenched his jaw. "So it is no longer here only." Arya nodded slowly. "It is everywhere our signal has ever reached." The room went silent again. The realization was heavier than any physical threat. They had not contained it, they had distributed it. The main screen flickered again. Now a single message appeared. "You must decide." Elias stared at the words. "For what?" he said slowly. The signal responded immediately. "Containment or release." Arya took a step back. "Release," she whispered. "What does that even mean?" Elias did not answer right away. His mind was processing every piece of data they had seen so far. Then slowly he said, "It means letting it fully enter our system. Or trying to destroy everything connected to it." A crew member shouted from behind. "Destroying everything means losing the station, all data. And possibly Earth communication links." Arya turned sharply. "And if we release it?" No one answered that question. Because no one knew, the signal changed again. Now it showed Earth, clearer than ever before. But this time there were no disasters. No destruction, only silence, too much silence. Arya frowned. "That is different." Elias stepped closer. "What is it showing now?" The system responded. "Future without interference." The words stayed on screen, heavy and strange. Arya whispered. "It is showing what happens if we do nothing." Elias nodded slowly. "And what happens?" Arya hesitated. "Nothing." "Continues," but her voice did not sound convinced. The signal flickered again. Now it showed two paths side by side. One labeled containment, one labeled release. Containment showed a collapsing station network. Broken systems, silence across deep space. Release showed Earth unchanged, but surrounded by unknown patterns in orbit, like invisible systems watching it. Arya stepped back. "So either we lose everything here, or we change everything out there." Elias did not respond immediately. For the first time, there was no clear scientific answer. Only choice. A crew member spoke nervously. "We should ask command from Earth." Elias shook his head. There is no time. And no guarantee they understand what we are seeing. Arya looked at him. So the decision is ours. Elias nodded. The station shook again, harder this time. Alarms went off in multiple sections. Systems began shutting down one by one. Core stability is failing, someone shouted. Elias turned to the main screen. The signal was waiting. Patient, still, aware, Arya whispered. It wants an answer. Elias took a slow breath. His mind went through every warning, every log, every impossible result they had seen. Then he said quietly, if we destroy it, we lose understanding. If we release it, we lose control. Arya looked at him. Then what is the right choice? Elias stared at the signal for a long moment and finally said, there is no right choice. The Black Star Station was now almost completely silent. Only the emergency lights remained, fading in slow pulses like a dying heartbeat. Every system had either failed or surrendered control to something unknown. Commander Elias stood in front of the final command console. His hand hovered above it, not moving, not pressing. Just waiting. Arya stood behind him. Her face pale, eyes fixed on the main screen. The signal was still there, perfect, stable and watching. It no longer looked like random patterns. It looked intentional. Like a presence waiting for permission. The entire crew had gathered silently. No one spoke anymore. Because words felt useless now, Elias finally spoke. Are all evacuation routes dead? A crew member replied quietly. Yes. Station lockdown is complete. External access is gone. A heavy silence followed. Arya looked at Elias. So this is it, she said softly. The decision. Elias did not answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the signal. The system changed again. One final message appeared. Final state confirmation required. Then two options appeared below it. Contain, release, the same decision from before. But now it felt heavier, final, irreversible. Arya stepped forward slightly. If we contain it. We cut everything, she said. All networks, all data. Maybe even Earth communication systems, a crew member added quickly. And possibly destroy the station in the process. Elias nodded slowly. And if we release it? No one answered at first. The silence stretched. Then Arya spoke. We let it fully connect. Everywhere. Elias finally looked at her. And we lose control completely. Arya did not argue. Because she knew he was right. The signal on the screen flickered slightly. Almost like it was reacting to their hesitation. Elias stepped closer, for the first time. The system did not feel like a machine. It felt like an observer, waiting for permission. Show us what happens if we contain it, Elias ordered. The screen changed instantly. It showed Black Star shutting down completely. Systems collapsing, networks disconnecting. Silence spreading through space relays. Then the image froze. Arya whispered. So we lose everything here. Elias nodded slowly. Now show release. The screen changed again. Earth appeared, but not destroyed. Not harmed. Instead, something strange surrounded it. Invisible structures, patterns in space, like an unseen web. Arya frowned. That is not destruction, she said. Elias leaned closer. It is control, the system responded. Guidance network established. Arya looked confused. Guidance, she repeated. Elias realized something deeper. It is not invading. It is managing. The crew stood frozen. A crew member whispered. So it is either isolation or integration. Arya looked at Elias. And neither is safe. Elias did not respond, because now he understood the truth. This was not a threat in the traditional sense. It was not destruction. It was not invasion. It was transformation. The signal pulsed again, and then something unexpected happened. A new line appeared on the screen. We were never signal. The room went completely still. Arya stepped forward. What does that mean? She whispered. Elias stared at it. his mind racing through everything they had seen, the logs, the evolution, the adaptation, the learning. Then slowly he said, "It was never a message." Arya turned to him. "Then what was it?" Elias looked back at the screen. "An interface." The word changed everything in the room. A crew member spoke quietly. "Between what and what?" Elias answered without looking away. "Between realities." The signal flickered once more, then showed something new. Not Earth, not space, not data, but structure. A vast system connecting unknown points across existence. Arya stepped back. "This is not communication. It is infrastructure." Elias nodded slowly. "And Black Star was never just a station." Silence followed. Then Arya said softly, "It was a connection point." Elias finally moved his hand toward the console. The crew held their breath. The system spoke one last time. "Finalization required." Elias looked at Arya. For the first time he saw fear, but also understanding in her eyes. She whispered, "What happens if you press it?" Elias paused, then said quietly, "Whatever we choose." "It already happened somewhere else." The station shook slightly. Louder than before, the signal pulsed brighter. Like it was becoming real, Elias closed his eyes for a moment, then pressed the final command. The screen went white. Total silence filled Black Star. For a few seconds nothing existed, no sound, no light, no signal. Then slowly the screen returned. One final message appeared. "Connection stable," Arya whispered. "What did we just do?" Elias looked at the screen, his voice calm but empty. "We did not stop it." He paused. "We completed it." The camera outside the station showed something impossible. Black Star was no longer alone, across space. Faint patterns were now appearing in multiple directions. Like the universe itself had started to respond. Arya looked at Elias one last time. "So this is the truth," she said softly. Elias nodded slowly. "The signal was never coming to us. It was coming through us." The station lights dimmed one final time. And somewhere deep in space, the Black Star signal continued. Not as a warning, not as an error, but as a beginning.